to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.
Well, hello, welcome back to another sewing machine. This one, what is this? Is this a 127? I'm thinking the 128s are the 3/4 size and the 127s are the full size. This is a big girl. Electrics are a nightmare. So before I do anything, I am going to cut these off. We just don't need any of this stuff going on. So all of this wiring is just going to go away really quickly here. Because yeah, this is just a disaster. I can't imagine. I have no idea if this foot pedal is salvageable or not. At this point, I'm thinking not. But you know, I'll give it a shot, but I'm thinking not. It looks kind of Mad Max right now. So, I am curious what this motor looks like inside. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time, moving things around, take this motor off, and just get a sneak peek of it. The light, I don't know if I'm going to try to rewire this light or not. I don't know. I need to pull this apart and see what it looks like inside there. So we'll see. But I'm going to be taking this motor off from back here and just step by step opening it up and seeing what it looks like. Okay, so I just looked it up and it says that according to the serial number, this is a 127, commissioned January. Can you see? January 18th, 1927. So she is nearly 100 years old. What I want to do with her, because I have not completely figured out my entire plan for her, is just to clean her up, because she is so filthy. Every time I touch her, I get just disgusting. So what I'm going to do is give her a good coat of cleaner, my massive 𝐭𝐤𝐤 original formula with no pumice. I'm just going to take a scoop, rub it on, and just let it soak onto her. I'll probably let it soak for about 20 minutes at least, all over the place, and then just come back and wipe it off with a paper towel. And that's going to do a whole lot just to get this outside coat of nasty grime off, so that when I go to start, you know, working on her, it's not quite so gross. So I have no idea of her history. I bought her from someone who buys scrap, basically. This was a machine that was about to get thrown out. It's a guy who uses the treadle bases and things like that to make tables out of. So he said that they just, if the machines are bad, they just pull them and toss them. I said, well, no, keep me in mind. So hopefully from now on I'll be able to salvage those before they go to the dump. But now she is coated with this stuff. I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit and then take it off with a paper towel in just a bit. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time taking this light apart just to see what I get into. So I've taken the backing plate off. That's screwed off here. Got a little nut. You unscrew this. This is for this little shroud up here. Just going to pop the bottom off here. Looks like it should push off. cardboard back in. Old cardboard. Okay, so it looks like it's just 2 connections, and that shouldn't be that bad. So I think I'll be able to reuse this. It looks pretty clean inside, so I'm very hopeful for this. All right, I'm just going to start at the top here. Rub it down, you know, getting all this stuff off, just to give her a good base coat cleaning. The 𝐭𝐤𝐤 is going to melt a lot of the old grease that's on there, and it's a lot of the old grease that discolors things and make it nice, and it doesn't dry out or damage the decals at all. So let me just keep rubbing it here, and I'll let you know the results. Okay, so that is good for her first wipe down. At this point, that's good for me because I just want to get it so that I can touch her and do things and just not get totally filthy. And I think that that's good. Once I take this part off, the bobbin winder, I'll be able to get in there a little bit more. So I am just going to get started doing my thing where I slowly pull pieces off, put them in their own individual little Ziploc bags so I can work on them further. So I'm going to start. This hand wheel needs some work. Okay, let's see what it looks like underneath this plate here. Well, I've seen worse. I have seen a lot of worse. It's pretty basic. I don't know if we can get a little bit of a light in there. It's a pretty basic setup, but I think it'll be all right. And go ahead and pull off this little plate covering right here. Now this part here is part of the cast metal of the head. That's not a cylinder that can come out. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of these pieces back in its own little zippy bag so I can clean them and put them together as they should be when I'm done. Okay, this, I need a big screwdriver to see if I can undo this one. No, we're going to spray some penetrating oil in there and let that sit for a minute. Think about its life. I'm going to go ahead and spray some penetrating oil in here and let all this be thinking about itself too. While I come back here, that's up here, and work on the back area. It is moving. It is moving, so that's a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and pull these plates off. The back one is very stiff, but honestly, the back ones are usually stiff. This has a black-sided front plate, which is interesting for 1927. Okay, so I have the end of my little wooden jeweler's handle, and I'm using that to tap out the little plate so that I don't hurt it. So we'll need to clean these off, and I'm gonna, wow, that is stuff. I'll need to take this plate out also, but first I'm gonna try to get these things taken off down here. So let me pull off this needle. Who knows how old it is? It's very rusty and cruddy. Okay, so I'm gonna pull off this little thread guide. It screws on the inside here and wraps around to the outside, so you know you're going to be threading this thing from the outside in, because wherever that curve is, that is the outside part. Slipping that in the bag here with my little tetanus needle. And let me put a little penetrating oil on this to see if we can loosen that up a little bit, because she did not want to go. Let's see if any of this is ready to come loose yet. Give me one sec. Okay, so this is now loose, so I can put it up. I don't know that that's an original Singer foot. It doesn't look like it to me, but I may be wrong. I was able to get this little plate off, so I got all of those plates put away. And now I am going to try to get this free up here so I can pull out the presser bar. Okay, got this loose up here on top. So, okay, so it has come off. There should be hopefully a washer on top of this spring. If I can get this spring to move up. Spring does not want to move up. Spring is stuck. It should pop up through here. Let me spray a little in there to loosen it up and let it sit for a minute. And maybe while that is sitting, I'm going to come back to this screw and see what I can do there. That little ratchet just gives me enough extra leverage that I can pull things out easily. I love that. Okay, come on out, baby. Okay. Got it out, and that bearing is moving freely, so that is a good thing. Okay. I've got to get that spring out. I'm just going to tap this from the top and see if that will free up whatever is rusted together up here. Okay, that's moving now. That spring is still stuck. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me fight with the spring a little more. Okay, finally got it out here. Turn this light back on. So see if we can see what the problem was. The spring never did want to go out the top, and I do not see a washer up there. Ah, okay, so there is a washer, but it's welded in place in here. See if I can get it there. There goes. That little washer there was what was causing all the trouble. It was kind of stuck in place, and that was keeping this from wanting to go through. So anyhow, my spring looks a little bit round, but that's okay. I think we can still make that work. This little piece out here too, if I can. Try to get this handle off here. See if I can do this while I hold the flashlight and hold the machine and hold everything. I think I'm holding too many things. Let me put some of this aside. Bring this up here so I don't have to work against gravity. So now with her tipped up, all I have to do is turn the lever. Okay, it's coming now. Okay, so we're going to work on the needle bar now. I don't want to tap too hard on this bottom part here because I don't want to misshape it. So this is the wrong angle for all of this, I know. Let me get situated here. Okay. Got presser bar out and associated accessories. Let me go ahead and tip her back down here for a moment and get some things put away. So I have the needle bar, this little screw, and this little screw are both part of this mechanism. There's the larger one and the smaller one. So I'm going to put both of these screws in with this piece. But this screw is what tightens the needle bar in there. So that's all part of that same assembly. Alright, so what I've got in here, this little mechanism is the part that when you lift the presser foot, it pushes up against that pin in the tension assembly and releases the tension, so you can just pull your fabric out. The only way it looks like to get this out is to punch out this tiny pin down here. And I do not believe that I have a punch that's the right size for that. My smallest punch might get it part way, but I don't know that it'll get it the rest of the way, because when I looked in the back, you don't see it at the back, so I'm not sure how deep it is. I might just leave this piece in there because I think I can just clean that up and work around it, because yeah, I'm not going to be punching that out. Does this bearing come off? Okay, I need to make sure I don't lose this bearing. It is the one that's up here on this little post, and so I'm going to put this in with the with the needle bar, because that way it'll save that whole little system in one shot. Okay, I'm going to push my sleeves up and see if I can get the belt guard with the whole bobbin winder off at one time here. This whole thing, I'm going to put all that in a bag in one place and come back and deal with it later. I'm going to put the little screw back in place here though, because I'm not sure what I'm doing with this machine, but a lot of times if I paint the machines, I want to paint that screw too so that it will match. So yeah, this is a mess. But does it turn? No, it does not even turn. Everything is frozen up on this, so this is going to need a lot of work. I'm just going to spray it down with penetrating oil, put it in a Ziploc bag, and let it think about itself for a while. Okay, I'm going to try to get the wheel off here. So loosen up that nut, which seems to be coming out nicely. I cannot turn that. Alright, spray some more of my fabulous 𝐥𝐤𝐤 in there. Let me just let that penetrating oil sit there for a minute and see if it's going to be able to loosen this up at all. The paint is a mess. It's full of rust and everything, so if I have to use heat on it, I suppose I could, but I would rather not. Well, on this wheel, I oiled and greased, and I even heated, and then once it was really hot, dropped oil in there while it's sideways, hoping it'll seep in. It still isn't going to budge. I'm just going to let it sit overnight, and maybe in the morning it'll feel more inclined to do so. I'm going to go ahead and take off a few of these shafts so I can get to this nasty, nasty shuttle carrier here. Let me see. Let's work on these here first. But actually, before I try to undo these, I'm going to take these little smaller side screws off, because I think that will help loosen things up. This thread off of here. figure if I can get this out enough that it loosens this little clamp up some. This here, that would be good. Okay, so this big screw with the bearing type shoulder came off up here. This little one came off down here. The bearing for that is attached to this top part. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this screw back in here so I don't lose it. And I'm going to screw this one back in here so I don't lose it. But this has come off of here. The part that was exposed is flat. The part that is more rounded, that has the number on it, that was facing up towards the bed of the machine. Okay, so let me put this one away and yeah, get working on this rocker shaft down here. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this nut off up here. 9/16 inch nut. Thinking a set of ratchet wrenches would come in handy right now. At least one or two. Just keep going, Marie. Just keep going. Okay. There is that. And there is a flat type screw head in here. Unscrew. Which should be the pivot screw. It's got this point right here. Okay. So put this nut back on here so I don't lose it. And can I just pull this out? No, it's attached in too many other places, Marie. Okay, I need to do the same thing. Same thing on this side. Taking off the nut and then the screw. These are loose. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew, ooh, if I can, this screw here, which attaches to the feed dogs. Very rusty indeed. Okay, so I'm putting the dirty little feed dogs in their own little baggie here. And so now this piece is free over here, and I need to unscrew it from over here. Hang on a second. I think I did this in the wrong order, but we will get there in good time. This has a, what is this, a 3/8 inch nut behind it here that I need to hold while I unscrew this. Okay, so the nut is now off. Set it down here, so hopefully I should be able to push this off. Okay, so here we go. This, I'm going to go ahead and I will be cleaning it, you know, especially that bearing type surface. But for right now, I'm just going to slip it back where it belongs with its own little nut there while I put this away. Oh, look at that. How gross is that, huh? Okay. Alright, so I just sprayed some penetrating oil here. See what we can do with these. I'm going to go ahead and take this screw off here, which is holding this whole little shuttle mechanism on, because that is the filthy part that's really important for me to clean. There it goes. Yeah. That needs a lot of help. Hey, but and look, the little ejector button still works, so you know we got that going for us. So I am going to call it a night because I need to think about a strategy here. When I first started working on this machine, the stitch length knob would not move at all. Now it moves very, very freely, okay? And same thing up here. This is bone dry. I'm going to saturate it in just a couple seconds here, but I wanted you to see everything in there is actually turning fairly well. And I'm trying to decide how much of a tear down I'm going to do on her. If that stitch length knob was still loose, was still frozen up, I would definitely be pulling all of this out. But since it is free, I might just clean it up in place. I'm not too sure. Plus, I need to try to let this come loose overnight, so I will think about all this and come back tomorrow with my decision on what I'm going to do. Well, I wanted to tell you I did not actually call it a night. I just shifted gears and started playing with this light. And I have rewired it, polished it up, and when I went to polish it, all of the disgusting stuff came off and the copper is there. So now it's kind of a copper tinged light, which is actually really pretty. I have on order it's supposed to be a very, very good clear coat that I can put on this copper, and hopefully it will stay that shade. So the brass is still brass, but copper is copper. And surprisingly, the light bulb in the machine still works. So that's all good. So I'm just going to set this aside. Now the little bracket that goes on here, and when I go to put it back on, yes, I'll have to take this off, but you know, there's worse things in the world. It's in some need. So it's looking more and more like I'm going to be repainting this machine, which is fine. I do love to paint machines. So this will be one of the pieces that gets painted. So I'm going to hold off on putting this back onto the light until after it is painted. So but just wanted to let you know the light is a go. Let me plug it in and I will show you. Okay. So there you go, nice and bright. I love it. I think that the copper color on here is going to have some influence on the color choice that I'm going to actually paint the machine. I think that I'm going to take my cue from this because I'm really liking that look. So yeah, it's all good. This piece I will just set aside as a piece that needs to get painted. And I left this, I just put this on a cord that already has a plug on it, just so I could test it out. I haven't decided yet how I'm going to finish up the wiring, if I'm going to do a little motor light block somewhere where I can plug a light, plug the motor into and things like that. If I do, then I will be having to cut and shorten this and put a different plug onto it or something like that. I'll deal with that later. I just wanted to make sure that everything still worked, and it does. Alright, so it's still very late, and I'm still up here, but I wanted to show you, I rebuilt this motor, put a new wire on it and everything, polished it all up, polished up the communicator area in the armature, and it works great. So very powerful, very smooth. I think this motor is going to be good to go. I did, you can see, buff it down, and just buffing it took the paint off. So whenever I do decide when I'm going to repaint the machine, I'll probably just repaint this by hand so I don't risk getting any paint on the inside in there where all the copper is. But yeah, motor is good now. Oh, it has been a few days, and I want to bring you up to speed with where I am. First of all, the wheel is off. That was a job. And I decided I am going to be stripping and painting this machine. And so, this is the first time on any machine I have removed the medallion. There's these little, adorable little nails that were holding it on. And it's basically a very thin, pressed piece of material that medallion is. So I pulled it off. I'm going to see if I can carefully remove these. I need to go get a special pliers for my basement, pull those off, and then when I'm all done, I will nail it back on with these little nails here. I do need to take all of the stitch length and that shaft off. Okay, I need to remove this screw right here so I can get started pulling that other shaft out. Okay, so by loosening up this screw, I was able to remove the block and the fork. This little bearing is still attached to the fork, so that is good. Be able to clean all of that up. And so now I should be able to pull this knob out, which has been soaking in a lot of oil in there. So everything is very, very greasy, but you know, I'd rather have it greasy and easy to pull out at this point. So let me put these in a baggie, and I believe, I'm going to tighten that up a little bit, but I believe that I am just about ready to give this one more rough cleaning before it gets masked up to be stripped. So I'm going to set that aside and show you how I work on cleaning up my parts. Okay, so I just want to give you a little quick view of cleaning all of this because it takes hours and hours to clean all of the parts in a machine. But my basic process is, if it's really greasy, to try to clean the grease off first. And I have a small container of 𝐥𝐤𝐤 in it. And so, in general, I'll open one little baggie of components at a time. And I usually, if there's like little screws or something, I'll usually throw a magnet, can't even see this, onto my little work tray, so that if there's, a small screw or something, it'll just roll over to want to stick onto my magnet. Okay, so like for this is greasy and nasty, so the first thing I'm going to do is just smear some of my 𝐥𝐤𝐤 all over all of my parts, just for starting. And I work inside of this little plastic tray because this is going to get really, really sloppy. Okay, so now that that is done, grab a paper towel and just pick one to start with. So I'm going to start with this fork here. So wipe it down, and that gets most of the really bad nasty grease off. Now this has a bearing. I'm going to pull that off, stick it onto my magnet, and I'll clean that separately. This might come off, might not. Hang on a sec. Will you or won't you? You won't. Okay, that's going to stay in place. Down here, I'm going to basically, as I'm working on it, I take off all the little small components, putting them on my magnet there, and clean it off. Now, at this point, I could use my Dremel, and I have a selection of these little pads, all different hardnesses. This brown one is about the hardest one. I can use this. I also have on my polisher stand a wheel that is a pretty hard hardness of the same type of a thing. But if I'm going to use this, I can turn it on and just get started cleaning it off. And you can see that that is cleaning it pretty well, and that works well. Let me show you on the bigger pieces. It's easy to use my big polisher. For the smaller ones, it's easier for me to use the Dremel. So if I come up here and turn this on, that works pretty fast. Okay, So I can go ahead and finish this on here. And if it looks like I need another coat of 𝐤𝐤𝐤 and another round of just the coarse stone or the Scotch-Brite, if that's not going to get into something, I can use this just to get into a smaller area. I'm going to clean and polish the inside of this fork, and I can do that on here. To get in there and clean all of that. So let me get this fork as clean as I can, and then I'll show you how I polish it. Okay, so at this point it's pretty clean. Alright, looks good. So now I'm going to polish it. So I've got a polishing wheel here. Turn it up. Add some polishing compound to it. And here, look at this. This will be the before, you know, which is not bad. Okay, and there is the after. So you can get an idea how you can make them look just like new. And getting all the gunk off and polishing up all these areas where it's going to be metal on metal makes everything run so much better. So in general, I'm going to be doing this with all of the parts I have in my little tote. But I want to show you, this is the wheel. It's very, very grungy, and this paint in here is really bad, so I will be stripping that. But I want to show you that on the wheels like this, where there's absolutely no shine or anything to that, I can polish up this wheel the same. So first thing I'm going to do is use this abrasive. I'm just going to do part of it so you can see. Okay, so hopefully you can see right here is where I was working, and so just cleaning it off. This is where it's still really nasty. This is where I buffed it off with the abrasive. You could do the same thing with the pad on the Dremel. Okay, it works just the same. And then once it's all cleaned off, using this step. So again, this is what it looks like right now. Okay, and that is what it looks like just after, well, you saw how long it took. So by doing this, I'm going to be able to bring this whole wheel like back to new. But it takes first, you know, cleaning all this off with the abrasive, whatever form you're going to use, and then with the polishing. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I have a whole lot of stuff to clean up, and that is it for this video. Next one was going to be about the painting process. See you then.